church, as it grows in this type of environment, God allows pendulum swing to power in humanity, because under that we get to see a clear understanding of the separation of those two kingdoms.
Yes, we do.
Right? There's been a time here in America where those kingdoms, the messaging of those kingdoms were kind of mixed. But right now we're seeing the dichotomy of the separation of those kingdoms very clearly. We're seeing one that wants to wield the power and wants to use the marginalized to bring them to power. And this is what communism has always done, right? It's put the clashing of classes against each other. And now there's a modern turn on what the class system is right now in America. Class system in America now is the homosexual, or transgender, or the black, or the multicultural, or the immigrant, or the homeless on the street.
Yeah, the commodity is victimhood.
Yeah, there's some kind of victimhood that becomes the class. And now that class is being clashed against those that they perceive that have the power. And this is the age-old structure. If you go back, Obama, he wrote a paper in regards, I think it was his doctorate, but he wrote it on Saul Alinsky.
Yeah, right.
And Saul Alinsky wrote a book called Rules for Radicals.
Right.
That book is dedicated, in the dedication of that book, to Lucifer, who rebelled so fervently that
Which is crazy.
he not only won his revolution, but he won himself his own kingdom.
Yes.
And he dedicates the book to him. Well, in the Rules of Radical, it's laid down to how to, at a revolutionary level, transform a society to bring about what you want to bring about in the end. Another word for this term is demoralization. And I never understood what demoralization was. I was like, all right, well, what does that mean? Like, you promote sexual promiscuity, greed, evil in the culture. It is those things, but it's not just those things. You actually take a nation away from what made it morally great in the first place. Patriotism, nuclear family, sacrifice. You at the core of that nation, you come and you pollute it enough where now the people see their nation as something evil and ugly and not valuable. So the people themselves, they don't have a desire for the nation that they live in. And once you demoralize a society to that level, you can now turn that society in a place where they'll embrace the most atrocious atrocities, which is like communism and Marxism and Stalinism and all these isms that we've seen throughout society. You'll wonder, why would a people grab a hold of this brutal ideology that has led to like 20 million people being killed in Russia? Probably the numbers in Cambodia from Pol Pot's is astronomical.
The numbers in Stalin's Russia
probably it's been in the hundreds of millions. Astronomical number, we know that in regards to what.
If you want to know, read a book called The Black Book of Communism. It's unbelievable.
So we see right now at a foundational level in America, there is this embedding of this type of thinking that is a communist thinking. They call it, socialism now, or democratic socialism. And that is at one level, when that is like being infiltrated into the country, it's hard to put your finger on totally, because they cover that in like, we're just caring about the poor or the hungry or the homeless or all these people that are downtrodden. So it's hard for you to stand up and say, that's not what you're doing. That's
very
not what
hard
it's
for
about.
a Christian to oppose that branding.
Yeah, and it's hard to do it when they don't have power yet. But once that movement grabs power, you realize that they don't really care about those people. They use those people to get the power. And then once they get the power, they swing that power back at the people who are opposing them for what their movement was in the first place. That's where we are.
That's where we find ourselves.
Yes, we find ourselves in that place. And going back to Jesus's message was directly against that movement of power.
Yes.
He's saying to the people who would follow him, who would actually go after his kingdom, that the way to actually defeat this power structure is not through the swinging of more power, but it's actually in humbling yourself, being the downtrodden, and trusting that the Lord is your avenger, that the Lord is the final justice, that the Lord will bring about his justice in the end, and submitting yourself to that. Once somebody like that sees themselves as blessed, Brock, right?
They cannot be enslaved.
Yes.
They cannot be touched, which is what Jesus promises us. Peace that passes understanding, right?
And there's a joy that comes from that.
Marx literally writes, we have got to remove this religious notion from these people because it pacifies the peasants, and we need to inflame the peasants. In his own pen, he is writing these words, which is what you just said.
Yeah.
If they see eternity as the goal, they will never revolutionize for us, right?
Yeah,
that's what he says.
And basically what he's saying, if they see an eternal kingdom as their goal, they will never fight for the earthly kingdom.
Right. That's exactly what he's saying.
We want them to fight for the earthly kingdom.
The enemy has always infused that ideology, and when you study it just through the political lens, you don't see it as clearly until you do what we're doing, which is infuse it with the kingdom lens. And you said in difficult times, in pain, the contrast between the kingdom of the man, kingdom of God becomes clearer to the eye, which I think we're seeing. All this Christianity that we grew up in has been this weird malaise of like too comfortable with power. For example, I never thought about this before, but when I was a young boy, you could see on TV that the kingdoms of man would invite in the pastor or whatever, right? It's only now that there's like blatant hatred of righteousness among the globalist, among the puppeteers that wield power over us, manly, earthly power over us. It's like the kingdom of God, anything really righteous, like that kicker just comes out and lays out the power of the family, and you can see these people want to vomit. Like it's all out there to see. But back in the day, and I used to think this was good because you want your culture to be righteous, but it was faux righteousness. It was trying to wield what Christianity has to offer. Christianity is not this. All my revolutionary left-wing Christians in college, they thought that what Christians were supposed to do is make the world a little bit more peaceful, a little bit more just. Jesus doesn't want that. He wants everything. Christians are revolutionaries in a much bigger way than that. We're trying to take it all back. We're not trying to paint around the edges. Jesus invades Jerusalem 3 times. Yeah. I mean, this is a conquering king. He's just not doing it
the way that earthly power thinks it should
and
be
that's
done.
the only thing that my like social justice Christians value. When I say to them, we don't value those things, they're like, come on, bro, get in the game. You know, we're supposed to be social justice warriors. I'm like, we are social justice warriors, just not in the way. We're not wielding the exact same power. We're not wielding the exact same tactics. You know what I'm saying? We don't replace racism for black people with racism for white people. That's not what we're doing. That's not the message that Jesus is bringing. That's old kingdom. That's man kingdom, no matter how you paint it.
I can't see God being settled with the state of the church.
Right, I agree.
I think his heart grieves, or desires, maybe is a better word that I would use, for a church that's without spot, wrinkle, or blemish.
Right.
That a church that's on fire, that loves him.
Yes.
That's willing to lay down their life for him, willing to respond to what they say they believe. Large remnant right now on the globe that would love to see true believers stand up and not just say what they believe, but actually act on what they believe, right, to the point that they would even sacrifice and lay down their lives for others. I think that's a powerful message, and that can only happen in a place where the power has been flipped, where those who are in power are exposed. That which is done in the darkness has come to light. Mm-hmm. People can clearly see who these people are and what they desire. When you see the bully kicking the one who's being stoned to death, like Stephen, mm-hmm, and you see him openly praying for their salvation, that is powerful to the onlookers, to the point that you had Saul sitting in the crowd watching this and realizing, oh, we're the ones that have the blood on our hands. You know, it's only in those moments, and it's only when God allows this, what we're seeing going on, happen, that you can actually see God's kingdom clearly on display.
The Kingdom Come podcast on Rumble.